Saturday, guys. It is time once again to let it rip. And guys, we have one that is likely to, how they say, stimulate some conversation. But before we get there, you want to go ahead and check Ant and see if we're live because I don't see us live. Um,
Uh,
I see the timer going, but anyway, never mind. It just popped up. Okay,
okay.
cool. So before we get into today's festivities and all of that, I need to cover a couple of things, guys. We are going to be talking about some things that may be a little sensitive in nature. Just keep that in mind as we engage with today's conversation. That being said, though, if you are somebody who knows someone who would be into this kind of conversation, we're talking about inequality in a couple of different forms. We're talking about social issues, things like that. If you're looking, or if you are somebody who knows someone who's into that sort of conversation, then what I'd like for you to do is, whatever platform that you are watching from, I'd like you to find the button that says share, and I'd like you to share the show with somebody that would appreciate this kind of conversation, because we are live every Saturday morning. And the more that you guys share, the more that the word spreads of what it is that we're doing here. Also, each one of you, as you are watching live, has a gimmick at the bottom of wherever you are watching from called the comment section. Do not be rude. Go ahead and say good morning, and let us know where you are tuning in from, and engage. This show, you guys see us live a lot. We do a lot of different things, and a lot of our shows are stimulated by conversation, but I would argue that this one, more than any of the others, is stimulated by y'all's comments, you guys showing up in the comment section. So don't be afraid, even if it's something that you may have a different perspective, different opinion than us on in the comments. We still welcome that. So, but without further ado, I turn over the show to our master of ceremonies, if you will, the host with the most, Mr. TC, Pastor TC.
Yeah. This point, no. Good morning, all. Yes, we had a very powerful talk last week about social justice, and we're going to stay in the same vein. There was a lot that we did not cover because we really got caught on gender, which is really interesting, but not surprising because it is a very hot topic in our culture today. And a lot of the various concerns and issues that the church is still facing are coming from these gender conflicts in the church. My personal stuff even happening after the stream that we won't go into, but it was a really powerful stream. I'll put it that way, that I felt like a lot of people got clarity on. But there was some things that we talked about last week. We ended up talking about equality, but we couldn't really get to it because of the gender. And so, what we're going to do today is we're going to open the conversation up for everybody. So I hope you got your spoons and your forks ready. We're all going to eat, and I hope you come ready to do potluck style to bring something to the table, because this requires crowd participation. So things like equality, I'm going to go ahead and lay out a spread for you. If you would, in the spread, you can venture off to any place you want to, but I'm going to try to keep in the compounds of the spread. We are going to try to take a stab at race in the church. But before I want to get to race, if we don't lose our mind to go to race first, I want to talk about inequality, dealing with those who are less fortunate. That means the homeless and things like that, because that is also a big issue, especially this. I don't know how it is in your state, Joe, but I know we didn't get to talk about too much. But I know in Colorado, it has definitely been a problem. So much for it, there's been laws that people don't even have the right to rest. And if you go to various parts of our city, you will see what we have personally dubbed from our church, tent cities. So you will find them. I remember it was a tent city. It was a tent city before I even go there. What do you mean by that, Pastor? Well, tent cities where you find usually like a big area. For us, it was a field. for a good couple years. A field of just nothing less, and you will see a whole bunch of tents with homeless population there, just trying to survive. And what we did in that season, just a little quick background on our church for Love Thy David Ministries, which is something that our lovely friend over here, Anthony Wilson, or in our church, Apostle Anthony Wilson, is over. Very powerful ministry that I've had the pleasure of serving with for years now. We will go over to that group of individuals, that population, and we will bring things like toilet paper, we would bring things like coats, food, and we would pay for a hotel room because it's literally a hotel adjacent from the field that we were serving. And we served that community, I think, for a total it was like 2 years. I think it was like that before they did the law of the right to rest, where they couldn't rest anymore, and they had to clear out, which was for us very sad. It was a very, I'm actually gonna be honest, I was gonna say bittersweet, but it was actually sad because we didn't know a lot of these individuals were gonna go. Some of them we did know, we were able to build a relationship with. God had turned things around for them, but a lot of them we did not know, and it was a rough state. And so I want to talk about things like that. Of course, we're going to start our way in the church, and we'll work our way out into the world and what we're supposed to do about these things, because it is a problem. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and just get personal thoughts, and then I'll present some questions, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with you, Joe. I'm going to actually start off with the firecracker. Let's just get your overall thoughts. What's your experience with the homeless population in your city? How does it look? How you see our church is actually active as much as they say they are? And what does this look like for you in the day in the life and in your city?
So I remember being a kid, my very first exposure to the homeless was driving through Philly, and my old man said to me that anybody who is homeless has made choices that have led them there. And that was something that I didn't necessarily have strong opinions about it, so I just kind of let that be what I thought for a number of years. In my 20s, I ended up homeless and realized just how easy it is that you can end up like that and in that situation. And my whole perspective on it changed. And so I moved back here a handful of years ago, and it became, during the time that I was gone, homelessness became one of the prevailing issues here. And it's one of those things where everybody likes the idea of establishing a shelter. They just don't want it near them.
Oh, snap.
They just don't want it near
That's
their
weird.
area.
That's
And
weird.
so there's city ordinances and neighborhoods and groups of people keep stonewalling the progress towards establishing shelters and things like that. And so you've got little pockets, local missions, but turning it to the Christian context, they as an aftermath of 2020, it used to be that pastors could come in and essentially give a sermon to the homeless population, and when they closed down that part of it, pastors stopped showing up to serve at the mission because they couldn't give a sermon. You could still sit and talk. You could still sit and have a conversation and all of that with anybody. It just wasn't that kind of format where you get to get up and speak in front of everybody. So because of the lack of resources and things like that, it has been left to the hands of independent agents that are trying to rally support, do different things, stuff like that. And so it's actually one of the things that has earned me some cross looks among those around me, because I have been rallying hard for the last several years, to serve within our communities and to be able to serve those that are dealing with food scarcity or with homelessness and things like that. Which for folks that aren't doing that is not a welcome message. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, we are 10 minutes in, so I won't get too controversial and start dropping haymakers right out the gate. But I think it's one of those things that um I we so and to answer something that you had said as far as tent cities, we have those as well. Little pockets
Right.
of space where um we don't there isn't a very high level of patrol. There are some ordinances that say that like you can't rest here and all of that kind of stuff, but there isn't a large amount of enforcement as far as that goes. um it's more of if anybody causes a scene or does anything to damage property or anything else like that any kind of enforcement happens. But yeah, it's one of those things that I think speaks to kind of the shared philosophy that we all have, because it's all something that we've experienced and hits close to home for us with this.
I think you're in there. I think you're in there. You said a lot. There's two things I want to come back to later. Before I do want to get to Ant. And yeah, I know you've been doing this for years, but I kind of want you to, if you would, which is going to be really hard for you, to highlight some of our struggles here in Colorado, some of our strengths. Because I don't want to be morbid. There's some good things happening here in Colorado concerning the homeless, but I will say there's a lot of work to be done. And I will say out of me, you probably have the most experience in this ministry. Where are highlights and where we're just not doing it? Some goods and pretty much some bads.
Yeah. um, I think I think the biggest highlights are when we get people to rally together and do things. Like I just got a message from a good friend and pastor in the city, Pastor Larry. Um, they're doing a coat drive, right? And we're like, okay, I'm in. I'm gonna share it with the church, and we're gonna see what we can do. And I love when we do partner. We make huge impacts when we partner with people. And there are some churches that want to partner, but I think on the flip side of that, the downside is that there's a lot of churches that don't.
Hmm.
They want to do it themselves, or they want to kind of, well, this is our program. They don't necessarily want to come together and do things, and those are the times where it's tough. I think our city, especially the city we live in, so we live in Aurora, Colorado,
Yeah.
and that's kind of a suburb, I guess, to Denver, right? And they don't want homeless in Aurora at all. They don't.
Mm-mm.
They and and I think Joe hit it because we had a situation right around the corner from our church where they were planning on doing kind of a transition housing, and everybody said, "Oh, that's great, but not here.
Oh wow.
Not in our neighborhood.
Yep.
We want help. We want y'all to do that, but don't do it here. We don't want those folks here. We want to help them, but just not on our block. You know, um, and you want to understand that, you want to get what they're saying, because safety issues, and there may be mental health situations, and when there's kids involved in the neighborhood, you get all that, but just the way it sounds, it just sounds like, wow, that's how you feel, and I get it, but at the same time, let's come up with ways where we can get it done. I think, here in Colorado, we have a lot of shelters. They begin to build huge shelters, but if anybody knows about those shelters, they're dangerous.
Fair.
There are people getting robbed, mugged, beat up, raped. There's some people that are like, I'm not going. I'm not going to the shelter.
Right.
It's more dangerous to be in the shelter than it is
In
to
the
be out
streets. Come on.
in the street. And you're like, what?
Right.
So you feel stupid, giving them information for a shelter. And they're like, no, do you know what goes on there? Like, well, no, man. So you see what I'm saying? And so it puts you in a tough spot because you're trying to figure out ways to help with very limited resources, and the places that should be helping, they're they're dangerous places. And so I think for us, the biggest thing that we've done, and Pastor James West is another guy that we've partnered with, who has a lot of connections, and he does a ministry. If he pops on, I would love for him to share his ministry and what he does. But we, over the summer, man, we were able to partner with him and do a lot of great stuff, for the homeless community. And it just gives you hope that if churches and ministries come together, we can make a huge impact. And so I think that's what I'm desiring. The Matthew 25, man. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me, so forth and so on. This is, a part of who we are as believers, as followers of Christ, as disciples of Christ. That's a part of our spiritual DNA, to see those that are hurting and find a way to help. You know, pooling resources and bringing people together, rallying troops to make that thing happen.
So y'all, both of you guys are seeing a lot of, to me, things that I personally say. So before we get started, 'cause I might say something very controversial, maybe not. We'll see. But being probably the youngest minister here, and not in the sense of age, but as far as like being involved in different ministries, like I know, Joe, I've heard you talk about your experience. And I already know you. Been attending Share Foundation now probably for close to 13 years. So I've seen different things up, but that was part of my if you would 20s era where I was doing a lot of these things earlier. So I was part of my highest exposure. So forgive me if I work a little bit backwards. My highest exposure was being at Share Foundation, because I always had a heart for this. Because let me tell you something, there's two things that are very heavy to my heart that God dealt with that were very bias stricken, that I have a very zero tolerance for in a weird way, but a huge passion. And the more I think about this right now as I'm talking, I probably don't say it out loud a lot. It's because I'm too busy either doing it or feeling it, if that makes sense, for lack of better words. And this might touch inequality as well. Those with disabilities, because you're going to run into those with even disabilities, deals with the homeless population. But I work with a population with disability for now a total of probably 4 years. And when I started working with those with disabilities, special needs, autism spectrum, you name it, I have dealt with behavioral, whatever, you name it. I came in really shallow because I was one of the dudes that were very shallow, and I will say ignorant. I made jokes about that population. That was what our culture did. And Joe, actually all three of us, I thought all of us have shared this culture where it was good to pick on that guy. It felt good. This is what you did. We all went to school. And so it felt good, maybe. And then you start growing up. You do something crazy like me. Good morning, Jewel. You do something crazy like me, and you get a job doing this. And it turns your world upside down. You see the true injustice. You see the mistreatment. You see the lack of resources, even as I'm speaking right now. And it frustrates you. You see the ugliness of how people treat these population of people. I'm just talking about disabilities. Well, it's the same experience with homelessness. Joe, you're talking about your dad and when you're giving your, your brief testimony. Same thing. I grew up with people saying someone who's out on the streets because they made those choices, and I agreed for years. I'm like, yeah. Walk by someone, I'm going to get my McDonald's. Don't be asking me for no money. You should got a job, get your own. Like, I gotta get my food. I'm serious. I had this very reckless attitude, and then I got saved. And you read clearly what Jesus' expectation is for those who are less fortunate. Like, there's some scandalous there's some scandalous scripture about how we're supposed to deal with these people. And it's like, what I've seen is like people want to turn a blind eye to that. It's almost like how I sometimes talk about forgiveness. Yeah, but it's like a but there. Jesus saying but. He's not really serious. This is, this could be not too figurative. This is just, him saying it's like this, but it's actually, when you read this, it's coming from a command and authoritative statement. Mm-hmm. Forgiven, you'll be forgiven. That's authoritative. That's not optional.
Right.
When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me. Not optional. These things are what he's saying to do.
Right.
And so getting wrecked by the Bible taught me that I need to take this seriously. And it's not so white and black. I've had friends that life has literally shifted on them on a dime and they're homeless. And it wasn't because they just made a whole bunch of bad choices. Life just wrecked them.
Life just hits. Yeah.
It just wrecked them. And you're like, and you feel hopeless. And so I had situations that have warped people's mind that they cannot cognitively make decisions anymore. And they're in a homeless place. Trauma. So it's not so white and black.
Right.
And so here we go. Here's where we might start getting some blows. This is the thing I feel like I'm starting to see a lot. Is that people realize they need to do something about the homeless. But people don't really want to deal with the homeless. So I'll go out. I might get here's a scale inspired. I might get food. I might go out and pray, but I really don't want to deal with you. I really don't want to follow up. And I'm not trying to make our church like the shining beacon, because there's even things that we're trying to grow in. But that's something I feel like we excel at. We will get a phone number. We will go back to that spot looking for that person. Yeah. A lot of people just like the acts of doing stuff for the homeless, but it seems there's not really a passion for it. Mm-hmm. It's, let me just get my agenda done. Let me just do my community service because it looks good on paper. Right. Not how can I actually deal with these people? How can I deal with their mentality? What resources can I give them if they do have disabilities mentally? Right. And how can I give? It's like there's a lot of disconnect there. I think the hardest thing that I heard you say, and I'm like, I've seen that. And I get it. When state gets involved, it gets complicated with the church. So let me, I guess, somewhat be fair. But it's almost like this other motive happening. Well, if I can't do it my way, which Ant was saying, then I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
If I can't just preach and I've done my job, then that's it for them.
Yeah.
And I just think that's very shallow. And I am speaking to churches. I think it's very shallow. And it makes homeless people seem like an object on a do list, not a actual thing that God is telling us to care for. And my last thing, and I'm pretty sure you guys are going to jump in on this. My very last thing after that with this is even the etiquette of going out. Good morning, Zan. Man, I think the hardest thing is the mentality coming from, they're out here because they make these choices, or you're trying to, I'll tell you, these things are like very interchangeable in disability. It's almost like a talking down of. So we call something that we have our school called productive struggle. I have a student that is a paraplegic, and he's very independent. And they'll tell you the first thing you don't do is insert yourself trying to help someone without getting to know them or ask them a question. And let me explain what I mean by that, because I'm not trying to contradict myself. I have a student named Louise. If Luis is like, I'm good in the bathroom, Luis is good in the bathroom. What you see is a lot of people say, well, it looks like he can't reach that. He's struggling. Okay, come on, let me just help you. And they totally dismiss the process of letting that individual be a human being and let them make their choices. Well, the same thing happens in homelessness. Oh, you're out here because it's so bad. Here, let me exert what I think you need. Not actually, what do you need? Going back to Luis, what do you need from me? Oh, actually, sir, I just need you to be there because I might need your help to help me push. I can't reach this soap. Versus my judgment is, well, he needs me to help him get off the toilet, all this stuff. And Luis like, I don't need that. I don't know how to do that. Why are you trying to force your way here and give me something I don't need? Same thing with homelessness. Why are you trying to force yourself and you give me something I think I need? And that's why I think a lot of times, and I'm sorry I'm on this, y'all. I know I'm supposed to be shifting this. Forgive me. But a lot of times what I love about us when we go out and outreach is a lot of times we're surveying. And what I mean by surveying is we're actually talking to people before we have anything in our hand. Now, a lot of times we do love that neighbor. Yes, we always, of course, we have food. We have something with us. But a lot of times it's just conversation because we're like, well, what do these people even need in this area? And then going back and praying like, well, what can we do? And that's what I remember was so powerful about the tent city situation we were doing that year is we went and we thought we need a whole bunch of stuff. And we thought we needed so much. And what these people needed was things that we truthfully was like, I didn't think about that. Propane tanks. So we shifted our whole strategy. We got propane tanks. That wasn't in our original thing. And it wasn't that we were just being judgmental. It was just like we were adjusting as we were hearing. Okay, we need propane tanks. They actually need toilet paper. Duh, how do we not know that they need toilet paper?
Hand warmers.
Hand warmers. But if I go out with my agenda, I just go out with my last thing. I know I'm so sorry. Good morning, Keela. Last thing, I'm sorry. You can see the passion, the hidden passion at first. Last thing, I remember, Keela's only. It's funny. Me and Keela, and we had a dance group at the time. We all decided we're going to make some sandwiches, and we're going to take them downtown. And oh man, we were in for a rude awakening. And mind you, I was very immature when this happened, so forgive me for my immaturity at the time. But we made some sandwiches. I think we made like probably a total of 60, just regular ham sandwiches. We were broke college students in a sense. We're in that college area, so we have a lot of money. So we're thinking we're doing something with our sandwiches. And we go down there, and we're downtown I always forget the name of the organization. I want to say Red Cross, probably wrong. But we're by a homeless shelter, and we're passing out these sandwiches. And these people are like, "Good morning, Kenji." They're like, "What is this? This is just a sandwich. Ain't no water. There ain't no this." And man, they wrecked us. We were mad. We passed our sandwiches. We're like, "This is the most ungrateful homeless people I've ever ran into in my life. We slaved to make these sandwiches for you, and you don't want our sandwiches. How dare you?" We were mad. And I look back on that. I'm like, man, we were so wrong.
Yeah,
we were wrong. We assumed that's what they would. We didn't even ask what they want, and then we shunned them for not taking what we're imposing on them.
Right.
Isn't that what happens? Is that then we think the stuff that they need, they don't want it, and you're like, oh, well, they're ungrateful. See, this is why they're out here in the first place. No, it's just like if you go to a McDonald's, and I hate to make this commercialism, and you ask for a Big Mac, and McDonald's decides, no, you get a double cheeseburger. You will be mad because they're giving you something you don't want. And since there's money involved, it's something that you pay for, you ordered. Well, why is that different in your scenario? People are in need. They actually need stuff. And you force it on them, what you think they need. And when they reject it, now there's something wrong with them. How abusive. Okay, I'm going to shut my mouth. I'm turning out to you too. Chat, come on, jump in here. We are talking about inequality. with homelessness, and we're talking about our experience. So if you have any experience that you have with the homeless, I see some people right now. I see Miss Lynn. Good morning. That have worked with the homeless population for years. We're talking about the inequality. We're starting off with the church in our actual responsibility. Some no-nos, because it looks like we're touching some no-nos, and some things that we need to grow on that we can actually come together and do. So we're starting right there, and we'll see where this thing goes.
There's a local woman who engages with the stuff sometimes, and so if she ends up showing up, Kathy, if you end up watching this morning, please chime in, because she is one of the preeminent voices locally with engaging with the homeless population and all of that. And so you touched on something really vitally very important. And this is one of those things that whenever we talk about serving your community, serving your neighbor, loving on your neighbor tangibly, it doesn't have to look one size fits all. It doesn't have to look like a sandwich. It doesn't have to look like this or that or the other thing. But what it is a response to the need of the person. And you get there by asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you need? What is like, yes, the layup a lot of the time is, I've given my $10, I've given my sandwich, and look, I'm not shaming anybody. Right. Get involved, for the love of everything. Just get in the game. But for those of us that are out there that are looking to organize and spearhead and all of those kinds of things, ask questions. Mm-hmm. Go and engage with the folks that you're trying to serve and ask them, what do you need? So that way, you know, we've all kind of shared this similar vein of we are trying to do a lot with a little. And so maximizing the little means going straight to the heart of the matter. Not to mention, now that was me putting my organizational hat on for a second, because you can't lose sight of, if you're trying to engage this conversation and what it means to go out and do these things, that there is an organizational element to it. But now let me put my personal hat on, and let me take that ball from UT, and let me get a little rowdy on it. All right.
Yeah. So like, get rowdy.
Look, like we when we see somebody who's we can gussy it up however we want to, down on your luck, right? Just somebody who's down on their luck, or somebody who, you know, is less fortunate than you. Okay, that might be a physically true statement, but whether or not they are down on their luck or less fortunate or have less or whatever, that's still a human being. And so, like, they're not going to reach out and bite you. Now, let me address the elephant in the room, because especially for a local context, a big part of where the homeless issue started here was that a lot of state facilities shut down, and those folks went right out on the street.
Yeah.
Man.
Like nothing, like literally nothing. They shut the doors and they had no place to go.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there is a slight connection to be had in some areas of some folks that struggle with mental illness, and there being a connection point between mental illness and homelessness. It's not an excuse. It's not an excuse to not ask questions and all of that kind of stuff. And the thing is that when we look at the church context of it, wrapped up in all of this, and this is one of those things that I used to get really Oh, just flat out pissed about. But now my heart has turned to trying to educate folks that when we talk about community service, guys, there's nobody, God is not standing there saying you have to do a certain amount of stuff in order for you to hit the mark and hit the appropriate level of serving your neighbor. It's not that kind of thing. That's a works-based salvation. And out here, that's a big part of it. Shame and guilt are a really big deal when you start talking about things like community service. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough resources. I don't have enough this. I don't have enough that. I don't know how to get involved. And it's harder when it's individuals that are spearheading this thing and not an overarching organization with trained individuals who know how to engage and how to do this properly. But at the end of the day, it comes down to engage the community, engage in conversation, seek to learn more about the people that you are trying to serve, so that way you can actually meet the needs that are present. Because, guys, this isn't complicated. I understand that this has been made to be complicated, but it is not. And the reality is that us as Christians, our call to love is not just loving our own. It's not just loving the people who come through the door. It's not just loving the people who have something. One of the things that blows my mind and frustrates me is that people are more willing to go to Dunkin' Donuts or to Starbucks or to McDonald's or whatever other drive-through, and let me pay it forward and pay for the car behind me. Okay, I'm not shaming, but let me just recontextualize something. If a person's in the drive-through, then they approached that drive-through with the money in their pocket. What are they going to do? Stick up the person at on the other thing and get their money for free? Drive off without paying for it? Come on! They came with the idea that they already could pay for it. But the idea here is that they come into the drive-through and they want to pay it forward. But the idea of engaging the homeless, that's out of bounds. That's something entirely different. That has to look different. Look. Maybe we quit paying for the car behind us and we put that money elsewhere. We put that money to something else. It's not just about money, but money is generally what gets exchanged for resources that are needed, whatever that resource is. So I don't mean to fixate on the money portion of it. I'm saying any resource.
Right. Because sometimes money, and I really want to hear from you. Sometimes money is just the convenient thing. A lot of times we think money is not convenient, but it's convenient because if I just do this, I'm done. I don't have to get my hand dirty. And I think that's why, again, when we're doing these type of ministries in our city, we give people multiple options. Well, okay, maybe you're not a cook. Like, God forbid I can't hold a candle to the lovely ladies in our church who cook wonderfully. But, man, I could prepare a plate. I have a wife who's very, very shy, and she will go out with me, but has no problem with praying, has no problem with making the plate. And the idea is to get involved and to commit.
Right.
I think a lot of times there is this inconvenience of being inconvenienced. What is it going to cost me? Do I want to pay it? And so even when you're talking about the paying it forward, in a situation like that, for me, because I've been the person that's done this, I'm looking for the less fortunate person. Usually I find there's always someone who's on down in luck because there's homeless population everywhere because they're trying to find someone to rest. This is in our city. There is someone less fortunate outside of that 7-Eleven, that Starbucks. There's been plenty of time someone asked me, hey, I'm just thirsty. And it always gets me because, okay, let me talk to the chat and y'all. Maybe you gentlemen don't do this, but I'm a person that kind of buy things in two. And some down working on, especially trying to lose weight. But I usually buy things in two. So I can't just get one fruit snack. I got to get two. I can't just get one Arizona. I gotta get two. Okay, I'll do one for now, one for later, and I go in, and that's just shows you that's just the privilege of that, right? That's just man. So I go in, I come out, and the person's like, "I'm thirsty." This is what happens. I don't just give him my extra one. I go right back in there, and I buy him what he wanted. So he gets that in some, because that was my privilege, and now I'm using my privilege to be a blessing to him, because I have a right to do this. So why can't I give them? Because I can always give me another one later.
Can I jump in and show? I just want to highlight the difference between what I was talking about and what you're talking about.
And I'm pretty sure it was like. So let me say this. What I was getting out of that is the focus. What I'm highlighting is people just doing simple things, because we're both saying the same thing, and I'll see what you have to say.
You are saying the same thing.
And that's what I'm saying, because I'm like, for me, it's the intentionality, because I'm actually agreeing with you. Just don't pay it forward just to pay it forward. Are you what's your attention? What's the focus? Like that, for me, that takes me not to be lazy and be like, oh, well, the person behind me, I just could pay. No, look around you. If Susan Ann has Louis Vuitton on a whole bunch of stuff, I don't think Susan Ann needs that extra $5.
Right. I'm not trying to discredit the car behind me. It's just a matter of when you blindly just shoot out like, oh, I'm just gonna pay for this car behind me without knowing any context of what you're doing. There's a difference between doing that and when you're walking into Starbucks, or you're walking into 7-Eleven, or you're walking into the gas station, and you are purposeful about that person who needs something, who you are responding to that, and all of that kind of stuff. There is, but you touched on this convenience factor.
Mm-hmm.
People view the idea of charity. I said that I said those series of words purposefully. The idea of charity as, let me throw some pennies into the pond, and I've done my part. Now the issue with that is it directed? Is it intentional? Is there a heart and a specificity behind it? Or is it just what is most convenient for you? Does this make you feel good because you paid for the car behind you? Are there times where somebody is scraping together their last couple of bucks to go through the drive-through at whatever? Sure, I'm not trying to discredit any story. But what you're describing, T, is walking around with your eyes open versus just blindly throwing it out there and not honestly caring about where it's actually landing, just saying, oh, I hope I bless that person. One's oh, God, I'm going to end up upsetting somebody.
What was that?
One's lazy. Sorry. The other one's intentional. And I just think that, and maybe this is me being the one who's the most hardcore about it, and maybe it's because I'm shaded by the fact that I see a lot of, we're just going to throw stuff out there, but when it comes time to actually organize and do things and actually try to go into the issue and make an impact, that we can't get our hands dirty on. But we can throw a couple of extra bucks at Starbucks. I don't know. I'll be the first one to admit, and Lord forgive me if I'm thinking about this short-sightedly. I just think that there's a more intentional way of doing it that still engages with serving your neighbor, and you get to do that, because that's the thing, guys. When we engage with this practice, we get to do this. This is something that doesn't have to be this can be joyful, this can be fun, this can be like this is life-giving, because we get to show love to other people. So my point is that, especially if you're working off of a finite budget, then why not make the most out of those interactions by doing it in situations where you know what that person needs, you know what that situation is, rather than just blindly throwing money at a problem that you think might be there, but you don't actually know.
All right, Ant, go ahead, man, because we've been going on. I need to
I
hear from you.
I really would, like to really engage the chat and see kind of their thoughts on, what does it really look like for them when it comes down to helping, those that are in need. What are some ways that they have been helping? The ways that they've been stepping out and intentionally. Our prayer point this morning was to find ways to intentionally love those around us.
Amen.
It's interesting that we're talking about the homeless. We're talking about, equality and things like that. Is what are some ways that, those that are in the chat, come on and chime in. We don't want to just, have a conversation with ourselves, because we could talk all day.
Absolutely.
But we really love to see you guys kind of jump in and chime in on some of the ways that you're helping in your context, because I think, like Joe said, it's really about, do I know what the person needs? We've been out, like you said, TC, Tent City, we've been all over our city doing stuff, engaging those that are on the highway overpasses and underpasses. And
right.
We paid for rooms on below freezing nights here in Colorado to get, people off the street. But it was because we built relationships, and we asked them, because some people said no.
Right.
Some
So
people
talk
said,
about that.
Would you like we asked them,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping Miss Lynn would chime in, because our Mission Mondays, she was out there with her son and Chris, and we had a nice little team, you and Miss TC, and we had a nice little team that we would go out there, and we were building relationships, we were having conversations, we were learning about their stories and their background. I think the toughest thing is, that this becomes, who wants to do this long term, right?
There you go.
I think you can, you drop a little, change in the cup and keep on moving, or do you build relationships that not only help them at that time, but eventually, you're helping them get a job, you're helping them, go back to school, you're helping them get their ID. We took homeless people to go get their IDs and help them sign up to get their birth certificates, and, so building relationships that embetter them, that empower them, that impact them. Some, they just need to get out of state and get back home.
Right.
So we help them to get, a train ticket, a bus ticket, to get, to get where they're going. And so, I really would love to hear, from some of the folks in the chat, some of the things that you guys are doing.
And you got a couple right here. Can I start with Kenji? Because this thing really want to point at this. You can utilize your talents to help others. Absolutely, Kenji.
Yes.
And this goes again.
Unpack this for us, Kenji. Give us some examples.
Yeah, please. Because I want to assume, but I'll just go ahead and say that, there's so much you can do without money. And it goes again with the longevity. So that, all right, here's this $10. I'm on the move. Let me go back to that spot, see if I can find that person. Because maybe I don't have time in that moment. So maybe graceful. Maybe I don't have time in that moment. Let's see if I can go back and make time to get to know this person. and see what they need and see what I can actually do. Because a lot of times the things you have for them is right underneath you, not just financially. Jewel. Oh, sorry, Joe. let me. I'm sorry. I got you. Jewel, I've experienced it. Let's see. I've experienced that some just want to know that there is people that just care, or that we do see them, and that they're not invincible. Excuse me.
Invisible.
Oh, invisible. Yes.
Absolutely.
Man, as you were talking about this, I was thinking about this video, and I don't know. I kind of feel half and half on it. But I couldn't deny the power of just the impact of it all. If I just be honest, there was a study, and I don't know if it was a case study. You know how these YouTube videos are, of a man being homeless, and you see people dropping money in the bucket, and this one guy texts this guy. He says, "Well, hey, what do you need?" He said, "Can I take you to go get some things done?" He's like, "Yeah, I want a haircut." Takes him to go get a haircut. Dude gets a whole pedicure, get taken care of, and he's talking to him while these things are going on. So it's just not he's just dropping him at the shop. It's actually having some dialogue with him, seeing him. And then he gives him course like over $1,000. But the thing that got me on the video was he was like, I didn't, this money is great, but I can't tell you how many times people just don't even look at me. Yeah. They just throw money in the bucket and then when they do, the way they look at me, like, I don't know. For me, that hit more than the acts in a sense. I'm saying the acts were not important, but that hit me more than anything. So absolutely, Jewel, is people want to be seen. Go ahead, Joe, because Kenji has a comment, or you want me to get this comment in?
Go ahead, because it goes right with what I was going to say.
Okay. If someone's having car trouble, this is real good, and you are a mechanic, you could look at their car for them. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
exactly.
So
go ahead, Joe.
This is the kind of thing that when I talk about the difference between blindly throwing money at a thing, like paying for the car behind you at Starbucks, versus intentionally getting involved, this is the kind of thing that I'm outlining. Like making a purposeful impact to try and engage with the individual at a level in which they need that the need is present. Like it's one of those things that Kenji said it, right? We can utilize our talents to help others. And I talk about the money thing because I'm trying, when I found that with this conversation of serving others, there is a level of you've got to reach people where they're at. You've got to speak in the language where a person feels most comfortable. And generally, most people feel most comfortable in this conversation when talking about things in terms of resources. But this is a prime example of how you can go beyond just resources and being able to utilize talents and gifts to be able to make an impact. And, this is one of those, to say what you, to piggyback off of what you said, T, I don't want to be, macabre as far as all of this stuff goes and just paint it as if it's this all bad sort of picture from the church context. I've seen it where there are homeless folks that will come into a church on a Sunday morning and feel very welcome coming in there because there's an engagement of knowing their name, of knowing who, like their story and all of that kind of stuff. Because ultimately at the end of the day, people want to be seen. People don't want to be pitied. People don't want to feel like it's an afterthought of what the least possible thing that you can do. So, I've done this, now get away from me sort of thing. It's more dynamic than that when we're talking about loving on people, when we're talking about serving people. And that's what gets back to this whole idea of inequality.
There you go.
And teaching that person, or showing that person that they still matter, that they still, like, yes, they are in the circumstance that they are in, but they still matter. They're still a whole person. And so, yeah, you might not be able to fund an entire project. You might not be able to put any money towards it. That's fine. Do you know how to fix a car? Do you have a car can take somebody to go get whatever documents they need, or can you buy a train ticket to get them out of town, like Ant was saying? Those kinds of things. Like, what can you do to get involved?
Right. And you know, I want to say it's because, you know, it's really, I want to really point out this inequality thing too. And I'm probably going to use myself as a catalyst so everyone's safe, which I tend to do. Man. So I want to talk to the individuals, and I really want to hear from Chad about this in a minute. If you've done anything like this, where you feel like you don't have anything, so you don't do anything. And I definitely see these comments kicking in. I got you. Let me read this real quick, and I'll go back to what I was saying. Which of you, if your son asks for bread, you will give him a stone? Oh, God. Or if you ask for fish, you will give him a snake. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. I'm going to pivot on this real quick. I want to talk about this, this verse that he's talking about. Again, it goes back to the aspect what we're saying. Why aren't we getting there and conversating with people? Which is actually, now I think about it, it's going to tie to what I'm about to say. Because let's be real. And I'm going to actually talk for me as being a Christian. If you're not a Christian, then I'm pretty sure you still can relate. This weird bias kicks up. So, of course, I talked about my privilege to be able to buy my 2 gummies and my 2 fruit, my 2 Arizonas, because I got the money to do so. And the other person doesn't. And learning to realize with privilege does come responsibility, and to do your best to help that person that's in need, but also to spread awareness about the advantages that you do have. And so that's a whole conversation itself. But here's the opposite side, the negative side. So I remember I was picking my wife up to work, and there was a season where, actually it was last year, we lived in Denver, and me and my wife love Denver, but Denver's super expensive. That's a conversation itself. That's why we got back to Aurora, because truthfully, we don't like living in Aurora for multiple reasons. But we live in Denver, and Denver does have a huge homeless population as well. And so I think I was heading back from an Uber run, and I was going to meet her for lunch. 1 to 2, pick her up or meet her for lunch. Either or, there was this guy in the middle of the island of Colorado Boulevard in Colfax. And this guy, man, I'm just gonna be honest with you. He looked rough. He looked like he was going through. Okay. And I remember, and y'all gonna be like, this is straight up cringe warning coming up. And I remember looking, I saw him from afar, and I saw how he was stopping all these cars. And I was like, please don't stop my car. I'll be honest. Please don't. And this is me doing homeless ministry. This is me. So this is me being in this thing for a while, having this horrible moment. And I'm like, oh my God. And so he stops my car. And I'm not even really looking at this person. This person is asking me for money for cigarettes. And I just remember like, well, I don't got nothing, so I can't do nothing. So I just drove off. And man, this beautiful person that lives on the inside of us, this amazing God who is constantly reforming us and shaping us, corrected me right on the spot. Because I felt like a piece of crap. Because I'm like, I can't believe I just treated this dude like that. Because Holy Spirit was just moving. And I was like, man, but what can I do? I don't have no money. I ain't going to buy him no cigarettes because come on. He'll need to be smoking. So a little bit of judgment in there. And I began to just make every excuse possible. And I remember doing something crazy when I really feeling like contemplated and convicted the way I was. I called my pastor. He's on live right now. And I was scared. I was like, hey, he don't let me have it. But I need to do something about this. This is big. This is wrong. I need to do something about it. So I called and was like, all right. he was just cool. He was chill. He was like, okay. So obviously you've done enough beating yourself up. God forgives, but here's a bigger question. What are you going to do next time? Because there will be a next time. I'm like, I don't know, bro. I might be broke next time. I always don't have money. I ain't gonna buy no cigarettes, bro. I just don't see how that's helping him. Did you ever just think to just stop and just pray for this dude, get to know him? I'm serious, y'all. It's embarrassing because it was that simple. Because a lot of times that's what it boils down to. So the follow-up to the story is you guessed it. I ran to the guy again because I had to go pick up my wife. He on the same spot. Consistency. That's what I'm saying. Gotta go back to a spot. Right there. And I saw him. I said, well, I'm in the same predicament. Uber was not lucrative today. I don't have any extra. But I stopped my car and I had a conversation with this man. No, I'll be honest with you, this man he wanted to hear anything I had to say. He didn't care about me getting to know his name. He was very down bad. He wanted to just get his cigarettes, and that was it. He didn't care about nothing else. But I did ask him what his name was, and he did let me pray for him. And why am I bringing up this example? Because that's the other side. This is the inconveniency, the bias that kicks into you when things are inconvenient, and you have to challenge those things. And now open it to the chat. Maybe you're not as horrible as I am, so pray for your pastor. But maybe there are some things you struggle with, or you've heard things that others have struggled with. What do you do with this bias first? And what do you do with the inconveniency when it's happening? Because it's going to happen if you're really going to be committed to this type of population. How much I want to tell you on this stream that every time you want to help the homeless is a pot of golden roses.
No.
The seeds are going to part and you're just going to have, it's always going to be something you want to do. No, matter of fact, if I'll be honest, talk about our tent city experience. We were going out in -degree weather. And there was Mondays I'm looking at pastor like, oh, he gonna cancel. Come on, man. Come on, bro. It's cold, bro. Quit playing with me. Me and my wife both. We just skip, both scenarios were right around the corner. And it's like, does it right? See him? It was like, come on, man. And he didn't. And I'm grateful he didn't. I'm grateful he pushed past the feeling of conveniency and we got out there and God moved every single time. All right, see some comments come in. Let me hear you. Kenji, good story, TC. I struggled too. It's okay, brother. That's what we want to do here. I want to hear about the struggle because I feel like there is a kumbaya side of this. There's this weird thing where, yeah, we always just want to serve the homeless. No, you don't. Quit lying. Not everybody does. Sometimes you're going to struggle. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the struggle when our bias kicks in. What we think, because even me thinking this person not needing cigarettes was important. That is a total bias-driven statement. Who am I to say this guy doesn't need cigarettes? Just because I think it's unhealthy, because I don't like smoking. That is strictly bias-driven. So you tell me I should give my money for him to stay in his addiction? I'm not saying that. I'm saying maybe you should understand why he wants it so bad. Because that was very judgmental. Little things like that come from bias. And let's talk about that, chat. Don't get shy on me. Don't get quiet on me now. What are some of your biases? What are some things that you see that you're just like, man, that ain't right? And that we need to just grow in. And gentlemen, of course, you jump in on this. Maybe you're not as bad as I am. Maybe you're more better, which is good.
Well, I wanted to circle back to something that Joe was talking about earlier about the whole pay it forward and give y'all a scenario to kind of look at. I was in a 7-Eleven. Actually, it's happened a couple of times, but it's in a 7-Eleven and a guy who was obviously, struggling, homeless. He's putting together change and he's trying to get a cup of coffee. And I see this and I see him counting the pennies. And my instinct is that, hey man, what do you need? Is it coffee? Do you need some food? What do you need? He said, "Well, man, I really would like a sandwich, you know, and a coffee." And that to me was paying it forward. I went ahead and took care of that meal. And even when we got outside, I got a chance to pray with them, you
Mhm.
know, and just let them know and handed them a card, you know, here, if you need anything, reach out to me. You know, what would you guys say about a scenario like that as far as paying it forward? Is that, you know, is that different from the Starbucks, you know, paying for the car behind you? Is that more engaging? Because I feel like that's what it looks like to me. Because
Right.
I
Yeah.
agree with you, Joe. It's like if they're in the line at Starbucks, they probably got discount card. They probably ordered this online already. I don't know. I that just
Yeah.
maybe I'm
Right.
just
Right. Right.
weird
Right.
like that. But what do you guys think about a scenario like that?
So I
Um,
think what you're describing is like to a T what T was talking about. Like that it's intentional. It's more exact. You can see exactly what's going on, and so yeah, it's light years different than just, you know, because honestly, the reality is when you're talking about paying for the car behind you, most of the time that's so that way the person doing the paying feels better. Just
Yes,
being honest,
I would agree with
it's
that. I get that good feeling on the
right.
inside,
yeah,
right?
exactly. And so and honestly, it shows a little bit of a disregard to um I don't know how this will affect the person behind me, but I feel good about paying for somebody else's thing, and I hope that they, because the idea is one person does it for another person, doesn't, or another person doesn't. Okay, but is there is there anything that's actually being like? Is there any need that's actually being met
Yeah.
in any of that? So yeah, to me, there's a light years difference between, you know, seeing somebody being in a 7-Eleven, seeing somebody who's sitting there counting quarters, counting pennies, whatever, to scrounge together for a cup of coffee and going up and asking, "What do you need?" versus that idea of just kind of blindly giving.
Right. And I agree. Kenji had a question, and I do want to clarify this. And I'm glad that you're asking, Kenji, because yeah, this is a bias, believe it or not. And let me explain what I mean by what I'm saying. Cigarettes are deadly is buying someone cigarettes, loving them. So here's the deal. Yes, are cigarettes deadly towards lung cancer and so much more? The thing I'm focusing on is that usually the bias of what you think is better for a person gets in the way of you doing anything. In that moment, I am looking for, and this is for me. And so, by all means, this can't get into the territory of being subjective. In that moment, I'm looking for a out because I'm not really listening. And this is too faceted for me. I'm not, for one, listening to Holy Spirit to see what this person even needs or what God wants me to do. I'm just focused on what this person is saying. They want cigarettes. Oh, I got cigarettes. I got money for cigarettes. So I'm out
Yeah.
because I really don't want to be here in the first place. Instead of saying, okay, well, no, I'm probably not going to endorse their idea of cigarettes because I do overall believe that's not good for them. But what are they actually saying to me? And let me give you examples. So let me give you another story to kind of help you understand. Same scenario. This time I am going into the store with me and my wife. And in this season, well, actually for a good 2 years now, the Lord's really dealing with financial accountability. And so I had a certain amount set for the store. And so I was honest with this person and I talked with them. Okay, they were asking me for money to get some liquor and actually to get home. That person was very honest with me. And I said, well, I have to see what I have left over after I'm done at the store. And if you're here when I get back, I want to help. Matter of fact, if I'm going to stores, is there anything you need? Besides that. And so I come out of the store and I did have something left over. I think I had like a whole 20 left. And companies were doing some good shopping that day. Sometimes me and the wife hit it. Some days, we're still working on it. But I had a whole $20 left over. And I got out in cash because I was looking for this person. I was thinking about him the whole time I was shopping. And this person still want what they want. They want their drinkage. They want their alcohol. and they need to get home. And I listened to this person. I said, well, how'd you get out here? I'm having a conversation. Like, what happened? What's going on? And I'm praying. And then I said, hey, can I pray for you? I did have what I said I'm gonna have. So I'm giving this to whatever you do with it, you do with it. Because you say you need to get home. This is 20, and this is more than what you asked for. Because I think the person asked for technically like $5. So I don't know how they were going to get alcohol with $5 to get home. Again, I'm playing my bias and checking my judgment check. And I'm really seeking to know this person. So as I'm doing that, and I'm like, hey, can I pray for you? I'm praying. I begin to pray for this dude. Holy Spirit begin to move. And this person didn't even want the money no more. They didn't even want to go they didn't want, he was like, what the heck just happened to me? He's like, you're praying. It was just like, you just knew. And I'm like, well, that's God, man. That's God working in this moment. This person didn't even want the 20 or the alcohol. I think he forgot where he was even going. And Pastor, I know you dealt with this before. This has happened, but this messed me up because this is the first time it's ever happened to me. Because I was checking my bias, because this is a string of progression for me. Because I'm like, I just want to know this person, and God, I want to know what you want me to do. And so when I'm talking about cigarettes, I'm talking about we get caught up in the nature of what we think what we think we know what's best for a person. Yeah. And a lot of times that bias is deadly to a actual critical conversation. And and let me be honest, if you're a Christian, it gets in the way of what God could be saying to you, because you're too busy trying to fix this. You're too busy trying to focus on fixing the behavior.
Yeah.
Yep.
More than getting to know the person. Yes, we know cigarettes are bad, but what does that have to do with you getting to know the person? Go ahead. My bad.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and that's where I was going with it as well. That it's not even about the cigarettes in the sense, it's about whatever I use to distance myself from that person. The cigarettes, it's a great excuse to be like, well, ignore them. Like, well, I can't help you, so I'm gonna keep going. But I think it was Peter, James, and John in Acts 3 that were on their way to prayer when they ran across the man begging for alms. And they've all said, well, silver and gold I don't have. But what I do have, I give to you. And they prayed for that man in the name of Jesus, and he was healed, and he went away. He didn't ask for any money no more, and like you said, TC, I've experienced that, multiple times out in the community. I wish Chalmer was on here. He was with me a couple of times when it happened. You've been with me a couple of times when it happened, where a person to come up, they're asking for money for this or that and the other, and we say, well, can we pray for you? And we pray for them, and by the time they're done, there was a time me and Chalmer prayed for a guy and his wife, and it was early in the morning. They already were drinking. They had liquor in their cups when we prayed for them. They put those cups down and they walked away from those cups. They left them there with liquor in them because we took the time to pray with them. And I'll give you one last one. This just happened 2 weeks ago. And I was hoping that Deacon Tim would be around to be on for this particular one, because he was a direct witness of this. There was a young lady that visited our church. Someone invited him. I think Sister Lynn's friend Jacob invited him in, because the lady was outside. I'm like, well, come on, I'm going to church. Come on in. And so they came on in, and the lady was in there, enjoyed the service, really got a word from the Lord. Enjoyed that time. And afterwards they were saying that, she was hungry, homeless. And, she said, well, I just need, some money for food and cigarettes, and, Tim was going to give her a ride. And I said, well, Tim, and I said this to her, I said, I can help you with the food. I can't help you with the cigarettes. I'd rather see you eat. If I have to choose on what I can give, I'd rather see you eat. And she said, I can respect that.
Right.
I can respect that. And I was just honest. And it's like, I'd rather see you eat than, buy the pack of cigarettes. And so, cashed out Tim some money. He took her, and got her something to eat. The amount that I gave him was just, exactly enough to get her a meal and take care of her. And he took care of the ride. So we partnered up. He gave her the ride. I got her the food. And so we partnered up to make sure that we took care of the need, Now, I could, I could have let, oh, I don't want to give her anything because, she's going to go buy cigarettes with it. But, I just was honest. I said, I want to see you eat. I don't want to see you go without a meal. And so this is
Right.
what I can do.
Right.
And so
And they
I just
Ooh, my
think,
bad. Ooh, that's good.
we're not saying that,
Mm,
cigarettes are good. We're just saying that we don't want to let that deter us
right.
from doing what we can do and what we should
Mhm.
do in those moments.
Right. Because man, that's what it's all about. Is again the person. So you're talking about loving them. Loving them will also cause you to tell what you actually want to give. 'Cause I think that's the thing. A lot of times, like I said, and this is for me, it's an excuse not to do versus I actually care about you and the Lord cares about you, and there's longevity, in me getting you something to eat. Can I go take you get something to eat? For me, I'm at the corner of a Colfax and Colorado Colfax Boulevard. There's a Good Times. Can we go get some Good Times? You have to be hungry. Are you hungry? And really being intentional about getting to know the person, not just letting the bias stop you from doing anything. And that's the point I'm making with my story. There was a lot of bias. There was a lot of judgment. There was a lot of things I was carrying about an individual I know none about, didn't know how he even got there. I just figured I knew what was best for him in that regards of me trying to get out of doing something. That's a big difference. Because obviously, in a scenario, you want to help the person get to where they're trying to get to in a healthy manner. So I'm not by all means condoning buying alcohol, things like that. Matter of fact, we tell a lot of members in our congregation, maybe you don't feel comfortable with that, but just don't stop asking them if they need something, if they need food, because you find a lot of times these people are just hungry. And I've yet to, and I'm telling you, it has happened to me. I've had people who said they want something like cigarettes or alcohol, but I'm honest. I'm like, hey, truthfully, I don't got money for that. But are you hungry? Yeah, man, I'm really, really hungry. I haven't ate all day. And okay, well, man, and I'm always buy food. I don't know why this happens to me. I always buy some type of food. All right, man. Well, come on, get in the car. Let's go get something to eat. Matter of fact, I remember my tire broke down. I don't know why I got so many stories today. Forgive me. Colfax again. What's up with Colfax? Colfax in Quebec this time. Decided to get the most gnarliest blowout ever. And I'm embarrassed. My dad didn't really teach me how to change a tire. We believe in roadside assistance. And in this season of my life, I didn't have roadside assistance. I had to get home. And these two gentlemen, one was dancing with a sign, definitely homeless. And me and my wife were looking at this dude like, first off, this dude's dance movements is incredible. And I'm like, that is just so cool. This dude can dance. This dude sees my car with a blowout. He comes over to me and asking me, do I need help? Now, first off, I'm like, man, that's already love. This dude's struggling. He asked me, do I need anything? And so I'm like, man, see, that shows you that we got to take down those barriers. The other gentleman comes over, that's his friend, and they're like, hey, man, let me help you with this tire. And I am dying of pride on the inside. I'm like, how can I let these dudes help me? And I don't got no money. I was like, look, I don't got no. I said it. My pride got the best of me, and I said it out of my mouth. Hey, y'all, I really don't got a lot of money like that, And they was just like, man, you're on your luck, man. Your tire blew out. Let me just help you out with this. And they work on this. They work on my tire. And I said, God, there's no way. I gotta get to know these dudes. And so we're talking, we're chopping it up. Like most things that happen, he served in the military, down his luck. The things that you hear that are this horrible in our country that happened to him has happened to him. Other guy, just hit a bad patch and has just been stuck out there and just trying to work hard and get out. And so, man, me and these dudes and my wife, we decided we were going to go to Burger King. because I was like, hey, you know what? Let's go eat. Let's go break bread. Have y'all ate today? No, we haven't ate. Man, we up here, we breaking bread. We're praying. And you will never know that the guy who had his tire broke down and the guy who's dancing with a sign begging for food were any of those things. They were just men and women breaking bread and eating food. And I bring that up to say that this is what I'm talking about. What I'm thinking about equality is this person human like you're human? I'm having a bad day with my tire. This dude's trying to survive. We're both having what we call the human experience. And we both come together and we break bread and we eat and we take care of each other. When I think about powerful ministry dealing with the homeless, that's why I think about is these two worlds coming together. Because if we be real, there's a weird high horse mentality that we come into these circles with. These, like you said, Joe, I think when you said it, and knowing you're a very intentional speaker, I'm pretty sure you knew what you were saying, but I just want to draw more power to it. These are human beings.
Yep.
We're human. And all we want as humans is to know we're loved. We desire fellowship. We desire connection. Mm-hmm. Why does the homeless, and I'm opening this another question, and it's probably our closing question. Well, I mean, by closing is that we're going to be on this for a little bit longer. I want to get to chat. I really need you to chime in on this one. Why does humanity leave for the homeless? Why don't we think about humanity when this comes to people being homeless? And let me explain what I mean. Well, of course, I think about humanity. That's what I'm going on. I'm talking about just the human components of you talking to an individual. That person needing love, conversation, to be seen. How come it's like we leave those things out? Because this is my thing. The service of it all becomes very weak when you leave those things out. So, chat, if you're watching, if you're lurking, just do me a favor. I need you to really think about that. And I want to hear from you. Why does it seem like we leave humanity out when it comes to the homeless population? These people are humans. Go ahead.
So this is where I'm gonna show some of what you'd come to expect out of me in this conversation. In the West, humans are trained to think of things in terms of transactions. It is a very transactional mindset when it comes to dealing with each other, and this idea of what do I think they need, what do I think is best, is a prevailing thought before asking what does a person actually need. And so when you approach with that, you are by default lowering that person to a lower station because you are speaking for them rather than stating rather than asking a question and engaging them and what they need and all of that. Now, the biasness conversation and the cigarettes thing and all of that kind of stuff. I'm gonna elect to step away from that part of the conversation because I think that's a distraction more than anything else. Sure, a conversation to be had. Sure, something to get involved with. Personally, I don't necessarily care whether or not me preaching at them about whether or not cigarettes are good or bad. Me, as somebody who used to use tobacco products, I can tell you firsthand that it is a personal choice that will get you away from that sort of thing, not somebody's righteous moralism.
Right.
And so I don't necessarily, I think there's way more important aspects of the conversation to be had when it comes to all of this. With the Western mentality, we think of things in terms of station, where if you don't have X number of things, like X number of boxes checked, if you don't have a place to live, if you don't have a car, if you don't have food, if you don't have these things, well, you must have made decisions or mistakes that have landed you in that position. Now you couple that with this idea, in this distorted idea from within the church about what service actually looks like. That it has to look a certain way, that it has to, or you give so that way you get, or something along those lines, some distortion of what service looks like. And then suddenly it becomes very easy for the person that is on the street corner, the person that's in the center median, the person who is, asking for something, to become a lesser form of existence. Now, I want to double back on something you said, T. I'm glad that you brought this up, because I think anybody who says that they haven't been in that spot of, oh, do not come ask me, do not come knock on my window. I think anybody who says that they haven't been in that situation is lying. Because we've all matured over time. Like anybody, not just within the context of talking about the homeless situation. I'm saying literally anybody in general has matured over time. So I think it's very honest for you to step forward and say those things. And I think it's something that people need to hear, because this is a dude who is also stating they care deeply about this, they care deeply about that, but this is an honest struggle. So it's not a matter of getting it perfectly correct right out the gate, but recontextualizing the thought process into this is a human being changes the entire paradigm. And I would argue that this is something that people really struggle with because of the institutionalized mindset of the West. Now, for those of you that are watching, that are like, oh, this dude's just whatever, this is just a product of his age, being somebody out here being like anti this and anti that. I earned these stripes of being able to say these things by working with folks from different parts of the world and getting a chance to be able to see how different parts of the world conceive of these different topics and these different things, and watching firsthand how these things are handled in the Western context. So unfortunately, and I wish this was just bias cropping up, my statements are coming from a basis of experience. Now, I'm not trying to condemn anybody, but the responsibility is on us to swim upstream, even within the Western church context.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think it has to be just limited to your experience. I think there's actual data and facts that back up what you're saying. If somebody just says, "Oh, well, he's just going off his experience," that's one piece of evidence. But I think that there's actual data, that suggests exactly what you're saying, about how we approach certain things, and we can look at, what is considered successful and what is considered not successful in this, Western culture, this American culture, and it lends to the idea that if you're down on your luck, then you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do something right. Not there was a set of circumstances that landed you there. And from a scriptural standpoint, and again, there's a verse that people don't equate to this, but it's actually saying it specifically in Ecclesiastes 9:11. It says that the race is not given to the swift,
There we
nor
go.
the battle to the strong, nor riches to the wise, nor bread to men of understanding. But time and chance happens to us all.
There you go.
That men are all caught in a cruel net, and that the poor and the rich both have to deal with the same end. That and so living this life, you don't know where you could end up. You could have enough degrees to fill a thermometer and still end up homeless. It doesn't. So for us to, as you were talking about earlier, TC, just to judge someone based off of our initial reaction instead of judge how we're going to deal with them off of what we know Scripture teaches, that's where the problem comes in. You know, yeah, there's always going to be circumstances and factors that create these scenarios, but is that the most important thing when helping someone? I think once you get to know them, you're getting to know them not to condemn them and to point out all their bad choices, but you're getting to know them to help them move forward,
Right.
to help them in the next leg of the journey. In our conversation that you talked about with your situation, that was my counsel. I was like, well, so what are you going to do the next time this happens? Why would I go and, well, man, you shouldn't have did that, man. What kind of Christian are you, man? I mean, man, you know better. You know how this is how we do, right?
Right. No, for real.
And it's not helpful. It's
Right.
actually, very unproductive. But when you get to that point where you realize that it's about what and again, the next right choice, the next decision that you make. Did I learn from that last one? One of the toughest things that people have, because maybe a person didn't do what you did from the heart of, I don't want to deal with this person. Maybe deep down inside, I'm so overwhelmed by the fact that this person needs something and I would really like to help, but I know I can't. So I just want to get away from it. I don't want to even look at it because I know I can't do
Right.
anything. So I want to avoid it.
Right. That's
Right?
the other part.
It's
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
so I want to avoid it, not because I'm some horrible person, right?
Right.
But I actually am overwhelmed by their need. And so it makes me want to get away from them because I can't do anything about it. Right?
Right.
Instead of just doing what you can.
Oh man, I got so much, and I'm not trying to prolong this because yet that one is there's so many different layers. It's almost like an onion for real of this, because there's that one too. I don't say this a lot, but okay, because it's the trauma of prosperity gospel a lot of times keeps me from praying and saying things out loud. But I have a desire to grow financially so I could be a blessing to others, because there's so many around me that don't have.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse when someone's asking you for something and it's needed and you don't got it.
Yeah.
It's a bad feeling. And yeah, I'm on that side where the need is so overwhelming, like you said. I think that's a powerful way of saying it. That you shrink back, and there's no introspection of what you can do. There's just I can't do anything because it feels so overwhelming. And the thing I want to do, I just feel like it's so cheap. So you just end up doing nothing.
Nothing.
My bad, Joe. You look like you have something to say real quick.
Yeah, that whole idea of the prosperity gospel being something that causes you to shirk back away from certain thoughts or certain things, that's very real. That's why most people within the church context have no idea that I own a successful business, because it's that has a way of generating a certain preconception from other people that, oh, it's just another Christian who's looking to line their pockets
Yeah.
and all of that kind of stuff. And you and I had this conversation when I was out there. There is no, like, you are damned if you do and damned if you don't when it comes to money in Christianity. It just is the case, especially when you're trying to generate funds to be able to fund projects. That's why I went what I said before about, I'm not trying to focus on the money, but generally, if you are going out and getting resources, whatever those resources are, you said propane tanks before, they could be that, it could be coats, it could be literally whatever. Things cost money. And so even just driving someplace to do and pray with people, gas costs money, cars cost money, you know what I mean, like
Right.
it all, like
Right.
so even when you're talking about doing a lot with a little, there's still a little, like that little is still a thing, that's still you know what I mean. So whenever you talk about that, you're going to have somebody rolling their eyes, scoffing, you know, saying that you're just part of, you're no better than all of the prosperity preachers that are out there and all this kind of stuff. And I have my own thoughts and I have my own trip ups about tithing and about this and that, and I have opinions. But let me just live in front of everybody just give you a piece of encouragement, T. Your motives are between you and God. Other people are going to have opinions. Opinions are several per person, and generally they stink. It's that motivating factor matters as to why you're trying to. I'm just going to say change your situation.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best catch-all phrase that I can use for it. And so, I do believe that when you are in that situation where you have changed your situation, that responsibility is real. Like you got, so you do. Like that's the thing. Like if you don't got, figure out a way to do. You can, if you, again, to go back to Kenji's comment a while back, if you're a mechanic, you can fix somebody's car. If you like going for a hike, you can spend time with somebody going for a hike and have a conversation with them. If you know what I mean? Like you can do things that don't require money, but that's not the court of public opinion needs to be pushed to the back burner when trying to sort your way through being able to be in a position where you do have resources to be able to be involved in that kind of way, I think is a good way of putting it.
Joe, you know, I like that you brought that up and talked about that responsibility, because even when you get those resources, the pressure actually is going to rise.
I get that.
You know, it actually rises because now it's like, okay, now that I can do, who should I do for?
Exactly.
How much should I do?
Yep.
And so it creates a whole nother issue, you know, for you to, you know, look to figure out how do I be a good steward, because then now I don't want to squander what I've been blessed with, right? I'm like, okay, you know, you just dropped, you know, 500,000 on me, right? Okay, now I can help people, but what's the ultimate goal? Is it to be able to help people now, or to be able to continually help people
Right.
for the long term.
Can I give a piece of just a small piece of advice? And this is just my opinion. I'm not pointing to chapter and verse. I'm not, and somebody else may have a different opinion than me. But as one of the talking heads on this thing, I get to use the mic to share my opinion. So Ant raises a good point that you don't want to squander it, and you don't want, and we talked about not blindly throwing money at things.
Right.
So there's all manner of, do you want to round up to give to this organization? Do you want to give to this? Do you want to make this charitable donation? Do you want, and there are a million different outlets for that sort of thing. Now, some of this may be some of my bias coming out, because being a part of the business world, I know how to look up the public information, and you don't have to be, just for the record, if you're curious about this sort of thing. It's public for nonprofits and all of that, and how they're spending their money. That's public information, and so you can look that up. I personally choose to not give to specific organizations that are at the forefront of whatever that cause is. I would rather spend that money calculatedly in being able to impact people's lives. And that might be going to, if you care about an illness, right? And you want to use your resources to give there, you can go to and find specific research scientists that are doing work. Most of the time they have all of their stuff in public because they're trying to raise funds and they want people to know what they're working on. And you can go to research organizations and give directly to them without giving to a nonprofit organization. You can do by, finding out what group of people locally is getting involved in all of this and what can I do. Maybe there's nobody and you've got to go out and you've got to ask those questions yourself and all of those kinds of things. Maybe it's a 7-Eleven. My point is it can look a lot of different ways. It can take a lot of different effects. Just because you have the resources doesn't mean that you just go, okay, a little bit here, a little bit here, because you don't, like, be calculated in what you're doing and go directly to the source where you're going to affect the most amount of change. Right. Or an impact. I don't want to. Forget about the fact that I said, when you talk as much as I do, sometimes you got to walk things back. I don't like that word, affecting change. Creating an impact.
To both of your points. First off, thank you to both of you. I just felt like it's some personal way that really helped me out with the eternal trauma that I constantly am struggling with. Like, Joe, that was really good. Pastor, that was good. And it was kind of crazy because I was thinking about, like, how can we give resources and talk about what the resources, and Joe, you just went right there. Because I want to give the people something that they can do. I feel like we had a lot of things in this conversation that we told them that they could do. But, like, if they are in the position where they are actually that person, things that they can actually do. I just want to, just say, man, as y'all are talking, the Holy Spirit was just moving. And I have to be honest with myself. I've tasted that before. And Pastor knows I've tasted that before. To be in a spot to just help people. But I've struggled with stewardship. And I want to maximize it more. And now I'm in a season where I'm not necessarily suffering, but there's more I want. And that helped me to define why I want the more. It's because I desire to be a better steward for when more comes. Because I have tasted it. So, there is more of a focus. And yes, I will say it used to scare me hearing about the more responsibility. Because I know we clown about it. It's a catchphrase in our society. It comes in music. more money, more problems, right? I know we talk about it, right? But that's true in a sense that the more you have, the more you're responsible for, especially if you're a person that wants to make impact. I do like that. You're a person that wants to really be effective at what you're doing and doing what God says to do for the people who are around you, because you may not be able to save the whole world, but you can save the people around you. You can help the people around you. And I don't know, I still have it in me, this fire to take on that challenge. And that's why I think the little we do, and if you'll hear anything we're saying on the stream, the little matters, because Jesus even says that if you can't be faithful with the little, then what are you going to do when he does provide the increase? Faithful of a little, ruler of many. When I look at that scripture, it really hits me differently the more I grow in it, because I'm like, there's just so many times we just overlook the little. And so we won't store the little that we have, but we want God to give us the many. But God can give the many if you're not storing the little. And so again, Kenji pick on a lot of your beautiful comments, because you have someone later on, he was talking about dehumanizing and dismissing and disregard. Like, all that was good, because yes, we get caught there and then we dehumanize. But this one with the car, it was just so powerful but simple that someone will dismiss that little and won't do nothing. And that's your little. And you never know if God wants to increase it for the many, because you're working in that little realm. You're actually faithful with your skills as a mechanic and fixing that car and not charging that person, getting them going. And I think now reclaiming, to me, what prosperity is. That's why I would say that's what, if you want to be that person, that's what that looks like, is that you're consistent with the little that you have. And when you do that, God is able to give you many to help those who he wants to delegate to help with. Keyword, he wants to. Right. Because the many is not for you. The many is for them. But here's the thing, if you can't store it yourself, then you can't reach them. And that's what I'm getting out of this. And it's, man, that was really rich. We covered a lot. We are approaching that time, unfortunately, friends. All beautiful and good things must come to an end. But Joe did drop some powerful resources, some powerful things, some powerful ways that you can help, some powerful points for just the stream as a whole that you can look at and review even after this stream. Do you want to talk about those real quick?
No.
Yeah. So
we're hoping you get to the comments.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are a couple of comments. They're from
these are Facebook users. I thought this was like you. Okay, because I mean,
yeah. So if somebody comes in through our through the group that I stream this to, they come across this Facebook user unless they allow for their information. But this is April.
I'm sorry, April. Can you forgive me? I'm up here thinking you just generated messages. Lord, and even if I stop to read these, it will tell me that these are obviously a person. Yeah, let's get to these comments. My apologies. Personally, we support others strategically, not generally. Very interesting. Only came in on Joe's perspective. Share. Go ahead, Joe, because she's pointing to you.
Yeah. So it's this idea of whatever it is that you can do it in a way that makes a direct impact and not just blindly throwing money at a thing or not really like directionlessly giving for the sake of giving because it makes you as an individual feel better. Like we talked about earlier on in the stream about giving to the car behind you in Starbucks. It's not really for that person. That's more for you, just being honest. And I know that that's a spicy take, but that's just the reality of it. So I'm right there with April that my wife and I, when our goal is to give strategically and not just give for the sake of giving. That's why we don't support certain organizations that, like, wait, you're a Christian and you don't give to things like Compassion International or the Good Samaritan, whatever. Like, no, I don't. Like, I would rather not have it go to a general organization like that.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I got you. Who are you already connected with? How can you help? How can you support them? Hashtag that part. Absolutely. Let's say a little bit goes exponentially long way. I had to make sure I said that right. Exceptionally. That I'll put exponentially. Let me add words to it. You know, April, you preaching up here, you cooking. Don't go and bury it. Absolutely. One thing done. Let's see. One thing each day for 365 days equates to with 365 things done. That's a lot. Absolutely, man. You cooking. Done. Let's see. Done is better than perfect. All good, bro. And she was saying all good because I was like, I didn't know who you were. Yes, man. All these are so accurate because when we're driving, that's the point we're driving is, in short, do what you can with what you have. And man, this is kind of almost trickle into you trying to, man, because there was so much in this conversation that's feel like we just do out of being consumers and we do out of just transaction, not actually out of just being who you are and being human, you know, because we just get rid of that component. And it unfortunately does play the Western side of the world more, unfortunately. Man, because I want to even go into missions, but
can I highlight something that you said, because I don't want it to be I don't want it to be lost in because you said something really valuable there that needs to be considered. And again, this is just when we come up here, and I just want to say, because there's so many outlets here of talking heads that can turn into just trying to cast guilt and shame and condemnation. That's not what we're trying to do. We have to be aware, though, of the fact that, like T just said, you can give out of a consumerist mindset. Mm-hmm. Just because you're giving doesn't mean that you're free from the consumerist mindset. Let that marinate. And that might not be you. And if it's not, awesome. For every single person that's like, yeah, cool, I hear you. That's not me, though. Phenomenal. I celebrate that. But let that marinate as you make choices on how and where and what and all of those kinds of things.
This is good. A sister in Christ said this year that the Lord put on her heart, use what's already in your hands. Give this woman an Emmy. She gets a star plaque. No, but seriously, yes. Use what's in your hands. Quit trying to undergive in the sense that you're devaluing what's God's placed in your hand, and then quit trying to give from what you think truthfully could be a worldly carnal expectation of what giving is. And although, guys, depending on how this goes, we might talk about giving in the future, because I'll see how we don't talk about tithes and offerings on somewhere on this layer rip, because it's a very controversial topic. But we'll have to wait for that one, because we're working our way through this whole social justice thing, and it's powerful. Man, always it's always good to double check our mindset. You are preaching, ma'am. Absolutely. We have to do that. We have to question those motives. Slow down and take a look. I am a huge advocate of that. I will tell you to look at your heart motive, and because only you know it. Like Joe said, and I love it. You know, people can tell you what they think it is, but only you and God knows what it really is. Right. And you got to be okay with that. And that's something that I'm learning to do every day, is to be okay about what is real in me and what God's showing me. Because people are always going to have opinions. Man, I'm going to say one more thing. and then we're gonna try to get out of here. Try keyword. And this is probably gonna open a team of a can of Sprite, but
Right.
yeah, no worm Sprite. I think it's very interesting, and I was gonna say this earlier, and I just can't shake it because in the weird way every time Joe speaks, because he talks about missions in a sense, he talks about his experience with helping those outside of America. There's almost this push to go outside instead of looking in our own backyard. And that in itself is even bias stricken for me too. And let me say this, let me make this disclaimer if you would. Yes, other parts of the world are less fortunate than Americans. I get that. There's work to be done in the world. Absolutely understand that. But if we be quite frank, if we just look outside, there's so much to do in our own backyard. And what I've seen being younger and a little bit older now, not old, but a little bit older, is there's this thing to want to fix someone else's backyard instead of working in your backyard. What are you saying? Is there's all this hype about going across seas, if taking care of those who have houses and those who are less fortunate, and there's people in your backyard who don't even have a house or a place to go to. And the passion from that is literally day and night. We need the same equal passion. A little bit biased here, I'll be honest, probably more because it's your backyard.
Yeah.
And I don't get how that's, because I've seen this in the church. That's really popularized more than the homeless demographic in your city. You want to go to Africa, and the street around the corner needs a missionary right now. And like I said, I'm okay with this, because to me that's a contradiction. How you have all this passion to have someone less fortunate out there, but you look at someone, well, yeah, they'll say silly things like this, Joe. You might have heard this. Well, even the average American who's homeless here is still doing way better than the person across seas. So they need me more. I think you're missing the point. I think you're missing the point. This person is without. That's very judgmental. And it just seems like a contradiction to the overarching thought and heart of wanting to help those who are less fortunate. Okay, let's go. Let it rip.
All right. Let's party. Because this is you're in there. All right. So where do I go? Okay. As a so let's talk about within the system. Let's talk about as Christians. Let's talk about the church. This is what this collection that you guys, for those of you guys that don't know, if you're new, every episode is somebody's first. So let's go ahead and introduce the gang for a second. We're all pastors. Ant's the senior. T is it serves in the same church as Ant does, and my story's complicated. But we all serve in that context, and so we all understand what it means to administrate within the church context. Looks different, but all of us understand that. And one of the things that brings us together into the same accord, we have some shared passions, we have shared interests, all of that kind of stuff. There's chemistry between all three of us, but at a fundamental level, when we talk about boots on the ground, we say this very core thing. If you are a church and you are not operating within the community that you worship, what in the wide world of sports are you doing?
Right.
Okay, here's the thing, and I'm gonna get, rough. I'm okay. So historically, when you talk about missions overseas, there is a savior complex that has been pervasive. We need to go and save these uncivilized people. Oh, you think I'm being hot about this thing? It's because I've literally, our organization has had to come in and clean up the mess of people that are just trying to one size fits all, do this generic template in these overseas countries and interact with them as if they are uncivilized, uneducated fools. It scratches that itch of a compulsion to be the savior of another group of people by being able to just throw money or throw resources at this group of people over here. And then you have that exasperated by certain organizations, and I don't want to take aim, that really emphasize be a savior for this kid.
Oh my God.
Give this kid a chance.
I'm sorry, but no.
And
no, but you tell the truth.
It's unfortunate because when you talk about and this is a conversation that I so wish Andrew was here on here with us, because he would get as hot as I am about this thing. That you especially when you're just being honest, when you are a white dude trying to do this thing, you automatically get put in that box. Because many people have been in that box. Many people have done this very thing where you're just trying to be a white savior in another country. Mm-hmm. And you've got to, in addition to helping, work past that stereotype. And just to try and help, because other people have screwed this up 3 ways from Sunday. And it's easier to not really have a face to it than to actually go out and ask questions and get involved in all of those kinds of things. And y'all, this is coming from somebody that I would have never thought that I would see the day. I had a dude who wanted to go for a run with me in the neighborhood. I'm like, yo, we're going to get stopped. We're going to get stopped. And, hey, pastor, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Like, people are going to stop us in the community. Because I've lived here for 5 friggin' years. If after 5 years I'm not known like that, then what am I doing? And so this is something that, this is the thing that gets, this is that fire that's deep down in my soul for the fact that, you hit it, T. We will look everywhere else. We will look at other parts of the country. We will look at other parts of the world, but we won't look in our own backyard because that requires more of us. That requires asking questions. That requires getting involved. That requires having a conversation with a homeless person. That requires looking somebody dead in the eye and not looking past them because they're looking for money.
Let it rip. Let me get these comments in. Anthony, I want to hear what you guys say. Homeless. Let's see. Yep, right here. Let me go down. Hang on. I'm lying to you. There we go. It's always good to double check our mindset. Homelessness, hunger, brokenness, addiction, loss, and so many things are all over the U.S. Absolutely. In our backyard. If you see a need, say it with me now. Help.
Absolutely.
She preaching in here. Here in Oklahoma, in some towns, you can find Ministerial Alliance. They serve the needs of the community together as one body. Shout out to Oklahoma.
That's beautiful.
Taking care of business out there. Let's go. What I see on those is, sorry. What I see on those is a marketing tactic. That plays on emotional triggers.
Emotional manipulation is a very real thing in marketing. I don't know who doesn't know that or needs to hear that, but guess what, guys? Coming from a marketer, I can tell you that even in the Christian context, when you see a sad little child in another country, what's it trying to do? It's trying to elicit an emotional response so that way you make a donation. I said what I said.
Okay, you can't do that because, yes, you up here looking at the child, and again, we're not against international affairs of doing ministry, but you better have the same heart for the kid who's barefooted out there with the mom begging with the sign too. Be consistent. Let that
Yep.
move your heart too.
Yep.
You can't have it both ways. You can't have your little kid get in too. I feel so compelled. No, it should be the same thing. Why do we like to separate these things? All right, go ahead, Ann, because this is truthfully one of those ones on me too that I'm just like, we got to quit this.
But I feel like everything's been said. It's like, how do I? There's nothing. What else can I say?
I mean, because man, that's why I saved this for last, because that's why I'm going to drive. Is because and I think Joseph is our generation, and it's not saying and you didn't have it. 'Cause I feel like if anything, you were the your generation is kind of like the pioneer. But really, there was this weird things happening in our 20s. I don't know if Joe's going to track me or not, but there was this thing to really go out and make missions.
Yeah,
that was sold to us in college. Go across the world, because it really preys on you want to be effective. You want to make an impact in your life, because every young person wants to hear that in their 20s. You want to be important. You want to be seen. You want to make an impact. Go across seas. I wish someone would tell me, hey, you want to make an impact? Go look at your school. You could find a student right now who's probably about to be homeless, trying to take care of tuition. You can find someone homeless in the community that you're going to school at right now and make a difference. Everything was about going out and not looking in and going out then. Man, I low key, Paul Washer is one of my favorite speakers. If I listen to somebody, I mean, I was talking to you about this a couple days ago, Joe, like people I listen to, and list is very narrow. Course being my pastor, my apostle, I'm always going over teaching. We're always talking about teaching, but Paul Washer, I'll come back to and revisit sometimes, and he just killed this thing. It's a very short clip about Jesus being everything. And he's like, there's two types of missionaries. He said, we can't talk about missionaries if we're not even talking about missionaries in your own city. If you're not even doing anything in your own city, if you're not, he says, two types of people in missions. There's those at the well that are holding the rope down while those are going down, and those who are holding the rope, they're getting cuts from holding the rope. Both are suffering. There's those who are here taking care of business and sharing the gospel, and true Holy Spirit conversions happening. You're helping those who are less in need. You're helping the homeless. You're praying over those. And there's those that you're holding it down for, and they are across seas, and the same thing is happening. There is this equality of ministry. But he's really driving home that the American church is in trouble because our own doctrine is messed up. Our own stuff is messed up. We're not even taking care of each other. There's people. Oh my God. There was a clip I watched and I cried almost. I was so mad. I was like, I'm just actually maybe so mad I want to cry. There are people in the church, single mothers in the church with 4 or 5 kids, working 3 jobs, barely making it. And they go to your church every day. You see these kids, you see the mom, you see the struggle, and you don't reach out. Say, hey, you know what? The Lord put this on our heart to give you this month. Let us bless you. That's in your church. There's look to say, I'm praying for you. The dude said in the video, don't pray for me. help me. And that's just happening right now. I guarantee you that in our churches, even ours, and this is why we're really big on getting people to know that person who comes in the door. Like, did you get that person? Yeah, dude, I just walked in. And, we know he might be struggling. My home. Did you get that? Did you say hi to him? What's his name? Okay. Did you get his number? Yeah, I got his number. Okay. Did he have a need? Yeah, he had a need. I'm talking about on the spot, because this is happening every day. People are going to church and perishing in needs. And they're on our roof. And you're talking about how you want to expand over to South Asia.
Yeah. So one thing I want to clarify with what T said, that I want to make sure that you don't hear what he didn't say. Right. I think sometimes when we talk about did God put it on put it on your heart, you're like waiting for some like burning bush moment. of like, go help this family. Okay, all right, but dig with it. Check. Follow the bouncing ball here. If you see a mom with several kids, even just as simple as struggling to get through the door, open the friggin' door.
Oh my God.
Hold the door. Like, don't pray. God, Father, I pray that somebody. Maybe you're the person, man. That's all I'm saying. Maybe that thing that you're praying for, you can have a hand in doing. Now, several hands help lift the heavy thing. Maybe you aren't the only person that can affect this specific change. So partner with people. Be willing to engage with a body of people to help affect something. And like, yes, I will be the first. Again, don't hear what T didn't say. Prayer warriors, stand. Right. Stand in full faith and full confidence and pray, because prayer is needed. Prayer is a very essential thing, but be willing to get into the game.
And actually pray for them. Come on, because you know how I feel about this one.
And,
go ahead,
and
Pastor.
be willing to get your hands, your hands dirty.
Yeah.
I think it's James 2 that says, you don't pray and say be warm and fed without giving them what they actually need.
Yeah, that's what
I think
just said. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that you have to get into. You have to be willing to, again, go the extra mile. Step out of your convenient, comfortable, Christianity that's just about, I showed up at church, I sang a few songs, I dropped something in, I dropped something into, the offering bucket, those type of things. It's great. It's wonderful. But when it's time for us to go out and knock on some doors and meet some people, come on, let's know where your money is going. Have a hand in it, even if it's like you were saying earlier, TC. Maybe you're the one cooking it, maybe you're the one bagging it up.
Exactly.
Maybe you're not the person that's going to go out and do it, but you're a part of the process. And so when someone walks into our church, I'm big on, and I hate having to do that, because I don't want it to be not genuine. I don't want it to be something, we do that because that's what our pastors require of us. I actually want that to be something from the heart, that a person walks through the door, you're like, hey, how not a program thing, because even that can become kind of a program, that, we're supposed to do this, so I do it. No, we want to care about people genuinely, and reach out to them and minister.
But if people aren't being decided, so, and this is where some of the difference in our context comes about, and I can speak into this being like, don't get me wrong, Sure Foundation is a home to me, but not being there for this giant breadth of time in the same way T is, I can speak from a bit of outsider perspective, where you can hope that is a heart thing, but there's no education that goes along with it. There's no training that goes along with it. There's no mention of it. And you just kind of hope that that's a thing that takes place. You need both.
Yeah.
Right.
Just because you instill that as a modus operandi for your people doesn't mean that you're negating that heart piece out of it, because you're not telling people to do it for the sake of doing it. You're telling people, like, you're showing people, this is an example of what this looks like, and this is why we do it. And you point to the scriptures, and you point to that loving response of something that was given to us, and the fact that these are, yes, disciplines, spiritual practices, rhythms of life that are for the community. Guys, it's in the community that we are formed. And it's for the community
Mm.
that we are transformed.
Mm.
So yeah, but there comes a point where we need to understand that at a church level, it's not some mustache twirling grand conspiracy to not be the hands and feet of God, because there are some people walking around that believe that the only people that deserve to be cared for and loved on are the people of God.
Mm.
That's a very real mindset. And so getting out there and showing people this is what it looks like. And how many times have we had the conversation to the point where we have talked about doing a project, doing a seminar or a book or a collaborative thing that says, hey, this is a very practical look at how you can do a lot with a little. How you can squeeze every single solitary drop of effectiveness out of this little bit. Because you look at a group like Sure Foundation, you would think that they're 150, 200 strong because of all of the things that they do. Because of the changes that are affected, but it's a wholesale mindset that when everybody hits up, and I'm not like UT, I'm not trying to, I'm not, there's a fine line between lording a spot as it's this perfect place that gets it all right.
Right.
And giving credit to, hey, this is an example of a group of people that are getting into the fight. I don't even have to go to Sure Foundation. I'll go to the comment section. April said with Oklahoma how there's groups of bodies of believers who will come together and be able to do alliances with one another. And I know that those alliances happen in other parts of the country. It's not just one specific group that's doing it, but look to how you can come together and pool resources to be able to maximize the amount of effect and impact that you're having.
Man, they cooking in here. Let's get to these comments.
Yeah.
Because man, I'm loving it. There we go. First off, April, gosh say, she says it's to say give your coat too. What she was talking about earlier is what we're talking about. Just giving what you got. Pastor talked about the scripture. What good does it say? I'm praying that you get a coat. And you got the coat in the closet. Go just give them the coat. Nowadays, the hashtag S are higher for people from other countries coming to do missions here in the U.S. versus U.S. going to, oh my God.
Yep.
Okay.
That one was numbers, just so you know.
Okay.
The numbers are higher.
I wasn't thinking about hashtag, but it could be numbers. You were absolutely right. Sorry. But girl, come on, man. Yes. The numbers. Okay. See. Okay, I got meetings. Okay. Good morning, gentlemen. I'm gonna call you Wise, okay? Cause I see YW. I'm just gonna go with Isalina. That's Isalina? Well, good morning, ma'am. Okay, anyway, good morning. I served in as a greeter at a mega church. That's real. But as far as real community, it was missing. Relationship is required for impact. Man, you cooking. Give this woman a chef coat right now because she's in the kitchen cooking. You don't know if you're water or a plant. Absolutely. You don't know. And I love this scripture again because what this is talking about is just doing what you are called to do, because you might be a planner, someone might be a wire, but who gives the increase? God gives the increase. Okay, empathy input. Routines are comfortable and are safe. Life is stressful. Church can become a routine that gives stability to people. Absolutely. We want it to be more than that. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with routine, because I'm a person that believes routine could be a good thing, but yes, we don't want it to be, in a sense, rigid. That's what we want to avoid. Let's see. Genuine love. Yes, ma'am. Putting yourself out there to help others can increase stress without the help of the Lord. There you go again. Peace I give to you, he said. Not as the world gives. Not as the world gives, do I give. Yes, it's the peace that God gives. Can't be doing this on your own power. There's a lot of sides to this convo. Serving in the brick in Is that Monterre? Mo- Jesus, I can't read right now.
More.
There we go. More. Thank you, church. Or the outreaches can become its own addiction and or slash idol. Ooh, we burnouts happen when the rest is not allowed to volunteer.
Yep.
Absolutely, this has to be. We said this thing in so many different ways. This has to be a group effort. It can't be just one person doing it.
Right.
We all have to come together and do it, because then you get the complex. And I mean, we said this way earlier stream. You get the churches that are just like, yeah, I want to do it, but I don't want to partner with you. Well, we all of us go this. All of us have churches in this community.
Yeah.
You know, it shouldn't be on one church to reach this whole community. What if we all came together? Probably more effective. That goes into partiality again. That could go into division. And like I said, man, y'all make sure you're tuning in. If you are not subscribed to any of these platforms, make sure you subscribe right now. If you're on Facebook, make sure you're following and you're not missing up this, because we're going to be talking about these things in the days to come. Absolutely. Unity. We're going to be talking about unity a lot, because listen, there's so much work to be done that we actually have to come together as a collective body to get it done.
Yep.
You know, closing comments, concerns, and remarks. I want to hear about it. You got a couple seconds in the comment section. Let me hear what's on your heart. Let me hear some takeaways. This is what we usually do in our church, and I usually do in my youth. Give me some highs. Give me some high takeaways. You're like, man, I'm taking that with me. I'll be chewing on that for the rest of a couple days, for a week. I'll be chewing on that. And give me some lows, some things you're like, man, oh man, we have to do better. I want to hear about these last couple seconds. Gentlemen, do you have any closing remarks that you like to add while the chat is typing their responses?
Yeah, I would just say, a couple of the comments. Number one, we want to serve out of genuine love, right? It has to be, out of genuine love. And I love what April said, um, with the help of the Lord, that we're not doing this in our own strength, because you can definitely get burned out with just going and going, because you're doing it, like Joe said earlier, to satisfy some need in yourself. It makes you feel good. It's not that this is a passion from the Lord, that this is not out of genuine love for your neighbor. This is something that, oh, I feel good when I do this. I feel good when, and I think that individual is more likely to be manipulated by the, sad face, or the, pictures of the kids, and because they're trying to satisfy something in themselves rather than trying to do the work of the Lord, and something that Joe said about, dealing with the huge nonprofits, well, what if there's stuff right there in your general area that you can pour into, that you can volunteer at, that you can be a part of and put your resources there, versus, okay, I'm going to send it to this organization who, okay, well, this organization is doing big things. I get it. I get it. But what if there's needs right there in your general community, your general vicinity, or people who are doing stuff, and you could, impact. I love that word, impact, right there in your local community. And so I would say, definitely genuine love, serve at with the strength of the Lord, and be very strategic in how you give. Look first where you are, and be an impact there before you expand out beyond that place.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. We hammered home this idea of get in the game, and I stand by that, but not for the sake of playing the game.
Right.
Don't do for the sake of doing, because you're going to get hurt doing that, because you're just going to get burnt out. Nor feel like you need to do X amount in order to fulfill a quota with God. It's just responding to the needs of those around you at whatever scale is what we're talking about. It doesn't have to be a certain size, doesn't have to be a certain frequency, doesn't have to be a certain template. It doesn't have to be, it's not one size fits all. It's not any of those things. And guys, it's something that you can genuinely enjoy doing. I'll go back to T's example. There are people who love to cook. They genuinely enjoy cooking. And so if you're preparing meals and all of that and you genuinely enjoy cooking, then cook the meal and have fun doing it. Engage with the church body. It doesn't have to be doldrum. It doesn't have to be robotic. It can be a bunch of people having fun. Maybe you are the person who's going out and handing out. Maybe you are the person who's going out and handing out water bottles. Well, you can still engage with the people that you're doing it with and have fun doing it. It can bring joy. This is something that we get to do. So, yeah, it is about unity and all of us coming together, because it shouldn't be so on the shoulders of very specific people that burnout happens to the point where you can't have any measure of rest because it's only on one individual or one group of people's shoulders.
Amen. I did see a takeaway comment, so I'm going to go ahead and read it. Takeaway. Any size of action to help and support on the behalf of others is seen and matters. Still do it. Absolutely powerful takeaway. Guys, this has been a powerful stream. Let me say this. If you are not on any of these platforms, I want to encourage you to be on these platforms. Go ahead and start off with Ant. Go ahead and tell us where they can find you, man, and what you're doing. So that way they can continue to get good content from the Lord and continue to grow in their faith.
Basically, you can find me just by typing in my name or typing in Love Thy Neighbor. It's kind of a weird spelling to Love Thy Neighbor. The LOVTHYNAOIBOR, NAY, neighbor. It's a different spelling, but usually if you look me up on YouTube, my shorts are going to come up. Tons of the prayer shorts are going to come up. And then on Facebook, I'm pretty much all over Facebook. People tell me every time they turn on Facebook, I'm on. I don't know how that's possible, but they say that's how you find me. So I'm pretty easy to find at this particular point. So yeah, just look up Anthony Wilson on Facebook, and you'll see my smiling face with my little Bible in my hand.
Joe, where can I find you? I know we're pretty much already platform. We're still talking about it.
So you can find me with Ant and sometimes Andrew and other casts of characters live every Friday morning for Kingdom on the Road, where we're currently going through demystifying the Old Testament. I also host a show called Buddy Walk with Jesus, where we are getting ready to kick into the Acts Project, and then live here every Saturday. And so if you're not already connected, you can find the shows on Facebook, on YouTube. Each show has its own YouTube channel and all of that. And yeah, I mean, we also, if you're looking for a group to join, a collection of the saints, you can head over to Facebook and look up the Buddy Walk community. It's a private Facebook group that we come together, pray together, nonsense ensues, the whole 9 yards. And so that is something that has been going on for a couple of years now. So,
amen. Kenji, thank you, man. It was good having you. Oh, there he is. Man, you missed most of the fun, bro. Good morning, Tim.
Oh man, we were dropping your name, Tim, the whole time. Man,
oh man,
go back and watch it.
I know you go back and watch. We can talk about it. Yes, you guys can find me. My name is TCR, for some, Pastor TC, and that's the name of my gaming channel. On the gaming channel, we go over Bible stories. We have a good time reimagining these, for lack of better words, and finding something a little bit of fun and laughter, but at the same time connecting God's message and what God wants people to do in their life, growing day by day. I am uploading now 3 times a week. I was doing weekly, but I have slowed down due to production. I want to the package be a little bit better. You can find me 3 times out the week on YouTube. That's the place you'll find me the most. I am on Facebook. You'll find me there. I do have an IG, which is called IAM_Pastor TC. If you're a Kingdom Hearts fan, you will love this page because it's this scripture in Kingdom Hearts theme. And that's also on my channel right now. If you're in the Kingdom Hearts, you're probably going to be loving what we're doing right now on YouTube, because I am going to Kingdom Hearts 3 being the game as I am retelling different aspects of the Bible. All right. Joe, go ahead and give us the pleasure of.
All right, guys, thank you all for joining us this week. Guys, we love when you guys engage in the comments. It has been awesome that so many of you have rocked with us for 2.5 hours as we have broken down this topic. Make sure that you tune in next week, live, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. You can do the math for your local time zone. And for another step in our journey, working our way through various aspects of social justice, inequality. This is where we're at for right now, because there's a lot of important conversations to be had. And like I mentioned, you can also find Ant and I live every Friday morning for Kingdom on the Road, also 9:30 a.m. Eastern. If you're not already subscribed, head over to YouTube, Kingdom on the Road. You'll be able to find live both shows on that channel. But guys, until next time, I want you to remember 2 very important things: that you are prayed for and you are loved deeply. All right. Peace, y'all.